Okay, today's lesson is going to be about adding and subtracting expressions. Go ahead and find that section of your notes and make sure it says 3.2, adding and subtracting expressions. So first of all, what I want you to understand is that when you are adding or subtracting expressions for this class, you will be dealing with linear expressions. That means that it's an algebraic expression which the exponent of the variable is 1. So here are some examples, and these are on your notes, of linear expressions. Linear expressions, notice that on each of these, the x does not have a squared or a cubed or anything of that manner on it. It's all to the first degree. And I have right above each of these a graph of it so that you can see that these are straight lines. So negative 4x is a line going down. 3x plus 5 is a line going up. And even 5 minus 1, 6x is a line going down. So these are the corresponding graphs. And I just want you to see that they're lines. Linear means line. You can even see it says line in the very first part of it. Here's an example of some nonlinear expressions. Notice here is an x squared. An x squared graph looks like this. It's like a U. It's called a parabola. Here's an x cubed. This graph, as you can see, is not a straight line. And here's x to the fifth, which is also not a straight line. So first of all, I want you to understand when your instructions say to work with a linear expression, you're working with a straight line, although we will not be graphing those in this chapter. Okay, so how do we add a linear expression? There are two methods to do that. There's the vertical method, and with this method, you write them like you do a normal addition problem. You align your x's together and your variables together. Now this is a 1x. You could add straight down and have 4x, and a negative 2 plus 8 would be a positive 6. Vertical alignment is not very popular, but I wanted you to be aware of it. The other more common process is the horizontal method. And here you would want to group your like terms. Now, there's nothing keeping these in parentheses, so you can rewrite it outside the parentheses. X minus 2 plus 3x plus 8. From there you can find your like terms. You have an x and a 3x. Those combine to make 4x. And you have a negative 2 and a positive 8. And those combine to make a positive 6. So on each method we got 4x plus 6 for our answer. It is now your turn to practice. You have 4 problems. I would like you to go ahead and practice those. There might be a typo on your paper on this last one. That should be an addition right there. Go ahead and solve all 4 of those and turn this back on when you are ready. Okay, let's go ahead and solve each of these. Hopefully you've taken time on your own to solve them. On this first one, there's nothing keeping it in parentheses, so I'll rewrite it without the parentheses. And then I need to find my like terms. In this case, I have a negative 4y and a positive 11y. Negative 4 plus 11 is 7. So I have 7y. And a negative 3 and a positive 3 minus 5 would be minus 2. So you should have 7y minus 2 for your first problem. This next one, I do have something keeping it in parentheses that I need to distribute. You need to distribute this 2. 2 times negative 5 is a negative 10 n. 2 times 3 is 6. From this point, I can go ahead and combine my like terms. I have a negative n minus 10n. Well, this is really a negative 1, and a negative 1 minus 10 is a negative 11n. And then I have 4 plus 6, and those combine together to get a positive 10. Again, on the next one, I do have distribution. 1/2 times w is 1/2 w. 1/2 of a negative 6 is a negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and distribute here. 1/4 times w is 1/4 w. And 1/4 times 12, you could have used your calculator for that. Or you could know that 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that 1/4 of 12 is 3. So my like terms, I have half w plus 1/4. 1/2 plus 1/4 is 3/4. Keep my variable w. I have a negative 3 plus 3. Well, those add up to 0. So that term is gone, and your answer is 3/4 w. Okay, on this last problem, there was nothing to distribute, so you have a negative 8z plus 4 plus 8z minus 7. Well, a negative 8z plus 8z, those cancel out to 0. So now I have 4 minus 7, which is a negative 3. So your answer then would be negative 3. So that is some practice on adding your expressions. Let's look now at how to subtract linear expressions. Again, there are two methods. There's a vertical method, and with the vertical method you align them, but then you have to, as it says here, add the opposite. In other words, bring that negative through. So instead of subtracting, you're going to add the opposite of each thing. So the opposite of a negative x is a positive x. The opposite of a positive 6 is a negative 6. And now you're just going to add straight down. 5x plus 1x is 6x, because there's a 1 there. And 6 plus a negative 6 is 0. So that term is gone, and the answer is 6x. To do that same problem on the horizontal method, we first of all need to remember that this first one stays, 5x plus 6. And then this negative sign here is really a negative 1, and it needs to be distributed through, which really means I'm going to change the signs. A negative 1 times a negative x is a positive 1x. And a negative times a positive is a negative, so it'll be minus 6. What you really need to do is make sure you take your negative through to each thing, so you change the signs. So I have 5x plus 1x, which gives me 6x, and you have 6 minus 6, which is 0. So again, we have 6x. So that's how we work with subtraction. You now have a chance to practice 4 problems with subtraction. Go ahead and turn the video off and work these out, and then turn it back on and we will look at them. Okay, hopefully you've worked through these problems. On this first one, there's nothing to distribute on the first term, or the first expression, so 7y plus 5 stays. Now I have to distribute through here, and I am distributing a negative 2. So negative 2 times 4 is a negative 8y. And a negative 2 times a negative 3 is a positive 6. Make sure you change the signs when you multiply by a negative. I have a 7y minus 8y, which becomes a negative 1y. And I have a 5 plus 6, which becomes a positive 11. So you should have negative y plus 11 for your first problem. This next one I do need to distribute through here. You can use your calculators if you want. You have 5, and you need to multiply it by 3.4, negative 3.4, and that gives you negative 17k, and 5 times negative 7 would be negative 35. You can ignore this. This was an additional parentheses. It was an error. Now this negative sign right here has to be distributed through. It's like a negative 1, which means you have to distribute or multiply a negative 1 through. So negative 1 times 3 is negative 3k. And a negative 1 times a positive 21 is a negative 21. So at this point, I can go ahead and combine my like terms. I have negative 17 minus 3, which is negative 20k. And I have a negative 35 minus 21. Both are negative, so you add, which is 56, and keep the negative. Okay, more distributing here. We're going to take 3/4, and we're going to distribute it into both of these. 3/4 times 3x is 2.25x, or 2 1/4x, either way that you want to do that. And then 3/4 times 6 is going to be 4 1/2. Now I've got to distribute on my next one, and I'm distributing a negative 1/4. So negative 1/4, first multiply it by your 5, and you get negative 1.25x. And then you need to multiply negative 1/4 times a negative 24, and a negative times a negative is a positive, and that comes out to be 6. So we have distributed. Now I need to combine my like terms. I have 2.25x minus 1.25x. So since it's just a positive minus 1.25, you could check it in your calculator if you want, but those just come out to be 1x. Then I have 4 1/2 plus 6, which is 10 1/2, or 10.5. Either one is correct. Finally, there's nothing to distribute on the first one, so 2n minus 9. On the second one, you need to distribute this negative to both of them. A negative 5 times a negative 2.4, two negatives make a positive, so it should be plus 12n. Then I have a negative 5 times a positive 4, which is a negative 20. So then I would find my like terms. I have 2n plus 12n. Let's combine to make 14 n's. And I have a negative 9 minus 20. Same signs, so I'm going to add them and keep the sign so it's negative 29. So we have practiced several different types of expressions where we're adding or subtracting. Distributive property is going to be very involved in it. You need to go ahead and get out a piece of paper and write down your homework assignment, which is right here, page 90, numbers 7 through 17, the odds, and 20 through 34, the evens. You do need to show your work. And when you're done, you need to take homework quiz 3.2. Make sure that you grade your homework before you take the homework quiz, and then you will be ready to move on. So go ahead and move on to your homework at this point.